Hi, I am going to be talking about the last section of your day-to-day, the relationship way, because I think it kind of highlights why we're here. Why is this a class? Why is this a 4 credit class? And what kind of things do we need to know about why this is such an important course for you to take? One of it is the professionalization of early childhood as a career. So I am going to start looking at part 4. And it says you are as a professional. And what does that mean? Chapter 14, it starts on 138. Some things I might read, some things I might summarize. My dogs are in the room. I'm starting over after 11 minutes. I'm not going to do it again, hopefully. Anyway, so a relationship-based profession, we're going to be learning what it means. Why are they calling it that? You very rarely hear it called that, but NAUIC, or NACI as I like to say, although they tell me that's not what it is, it's NAUIC, has started to really emphasize relationship-based education, especially for infant and toddlers. So I'm on 138, and it says there's certain things that you want to see as part of a person who identifies as an infant and toddler professional. They identify as professionals in the early childhood field. They have a code of ethics and engage in ethical practice. Taking care of children requires that we have standards and that we do our best to meet them each day for the children and their families. Have an extensive knowledge base and know that very young children's learning and loving go together. Are continually learning and improving their practice. They're involved in advocating for and improving the quality of the profession. And they continually engage in self-reflection on their own and their community's biases and work to appreciate cultural, age, gender, and other types of diversity. Working with toddlers and infants is one of the most challenging professions. It's physically and emotionally intense. And as a professional, you require vast, deep, and subtle knowledge of child development and program planning. Despite these challenges, infant and toddler teachers experience joy when with children. And I think that the inference or what they're implying is that if you don't, maybe that's not the right age group for you. So here are some quotes from people who teach infant and toddlers, and they're talking about their joy. My greatest joy is seeing infant and toddlers develop and grow. At our center, we do continuity of care. So we get to stay with a group of infants when they move up to the toddler room. My greatest joy is seeing them succeed at anything. I've seen them struggle and finally get the magnets to stand without help. I get joy when children are compassionate and empathetic. For example, 1.5-year-old Thomas squatted down and gently patted a beetle bug that crossed his path in the sandbox. 2-year-old Leslie earnestly tried to assist her little friend, who became frustrated when the firefighter hat wouldn't stay on his head. And then there's a section called Power to the Profession. Now, when I was a toddler teacher, and that's where I started out in my teaching career as a toddler teacher, I was fresh out of college, and no, I didn't necessarily think that, I didn't go to college and say, I'm going to be a toddler teacher. I wanted to be an elementary school teacher, but at that time, it was a while ago, they did not, there weren't jobs. So I interviewed at IC3, Ithaca Community Child Care Center. And I got a job as a co-teacher with Jean Malone, who is now the program director at IC3 in Ithaca. And I was a Panda teacher, and I thought, I didn't even think there were teachers for toddlers. And that's what this book is talking about, is that unless you understand my experiences, once I was a toddler teacher, I was like, oh, I get it. This is all scaffolding. This is all Vygotsky. And we have that layer, that infant toddlers are such an important layer, a foundation for future learning. And one of the things children need in order to do that is to feel safe. And so that's one of the reasons relationships are so important. But anyway, Power to the Profession means that we're part of a movement. Professionals are part of a movement to improve quality in early childhood programs. Power to the Professional is a national collaboration of early childhood programs and funding foundations focused on advancing and advocating for an equitable, diverse, and effective early childhood education profession. This movement addresses career pathways, knowledge needed by early childhood professionals, standards for programs and education, and training for teachers and professional compensation. What I often see in programs or classrooms is that people do things that I actually agree with, but they don't know why they do them. Someone told them to do it that way. There is a certain, like, it ups your level. It shoots you to another level as a teacher when you know the reason why. Because there's science behind a lot of this, there's research, there's reasons things should be a certain way. And if you know enough, then you could be even better at providing that environment for a child to thrive. Like, you might miss opportunities that you're still a good teacher, you might even still be a great teacher, but you could be an amazing teacher and an amazing supporter and facilitator of an environment in which children can thrive to their own unique potential, right? Then there's a section where they give advice about what to say when someone says something like this: "What's so hard about your job? You could just feed babies and change their diapers. That's all you do." And they say, "Well, did you know that infants and toddlers' brains grow more quickly in the first 3 years than at any other time in their lives? And children need responsive interactions to learn. For example, talk about the importance of language development and reading to infants and toddlers. Explain that to infants and toddlers, positive emotional and social development provides a foundation for their social and academic success in preschool and elementary school." Probably beyond, but it doesn't say that. "Infants and toddlers need focused attention on their emotional and social development to thrive." And I think a lot of the times over the years, we've just assumed, well, that stuff just happens, you know? And now what we're learning is that teachers are the great facilitators. If you're busy cutting up stuff and not helping to facilitate or provide narrative to what they're maybe not able to say yet, we're missing a lot of really great opportunities. Talk about the importance of responsive, relationship-based care for infants and toddlers to feel safe to learn. When you explain the philosophies and research that guide your teaching approach, you'll help families, community members, and others better understand the value of the work you do and encourage them to partner with you. I'm biased, but people can't go to work and invent things and raise money and run the community if their children aren't well taken care of. We learned during the pandemic that our system runs on childcare, and childcare is in a crisis, and yet we continually don't do anything about it. But now look at everybody complaining because supposedly we're behind. Well, I would say maybe we should have been reading to people, or they should have been reading and not worried so much about standardized scores, but that's just me. So on 140, it does talk about competencies and standards in early childhood education. We'll talk about this semester. When you read this section, I'd like you to look at it more carefully. There's different organizations that are available to us to look to for standards. Locally, well, at the state level, we go CFS. That's our licensing organization, and if that's kind of a bare minimum standard. It's to keep people safe. Doesn't have much to do with how to create environments for children to thrive, but it does have an important level of making sure people have been cleared, that you don't have people that are not safe for children to be around. They have a lot of safe and important policies. Things about the building you're in, things I probably don't even know, I'm sure. But then we have Quality Stars and NAEYC are the main ones that I know about. And our child care center used to be NAEYC accredited. However, probably we weren't quite meeting a lot of the upper echelon things that I hoped we would. And I think the pandemic kind of, it destroyed a lot of stuff in childcare across the world, probably across the country. But anyway, for us, it really took a lot of momentum out of us, and so we are now not NAEYC accredited. I hope someday we will be again, but it is also like very expensive. I think it's $20,000 to start, and I'm not sure how much it is yearly. But once you give it up, you have to pay that again, I believe. And so my hope is that we're going to work towards meeting those standards, um, even if we do not, pay the money to go through the process. What we are doing right now is Quality Stars, and people have told me that they believe it is the same. I don't think it's the same. I do think there's a lot of similarities, and I'm excited about learning how it aligns and where it doesn't align. I have a feeling some of it tries to take all the things about NACCE and make it a checklist, and I think you kind of lose some of the real reasons why we do things. For example, I know like they have to have a certain number types of blocks and numbers of blocks. But I haven't heard anybody yet say why they gotta have the blocks and what the heck are they supposed to do with them, right? So we're gonna learn about some of that. And it's gonna be a little different everywhere you go. All right, so challenge and satisfaction. This is 141. Young children and their families deserve optimal care and learning opportunities. And we know that the early years are critical for building children's brain development. The experiences of infants and toddlers in early education settings have the potential to create a solid foundation for children's well-being and success in school and beyond. However, providing relationship-based care and learning programs is challenging. Can you imagine what the challenges might be? There are many changes related to pay, recognition. State and federal policies are recognizing the importance of relationship-based programs, yet there's a continual need to improve policies and funding so that programs provide small child-to-staff ratios and decrease the number of children allowed in groups. Teachers may need to think about structural changes in programs in order to better support primary care and continuity of care. And we will learn what primary care means as a formal definition and continuity of care. Teachers need respectful and responsive ongoing education opportunities to understand the importance of caring relationships and relation-based practices for young children. The teaching profession is expected to continually get trainings and to continually seek professional development. It's important that we require that of early childhood professionals too, especially if we want them to be considered teachers. Teachers need respectful and responsive ongoing education. I just read that. Your intensely emotional work with children, families, and other staff is also challenging. Infant and toddlers require mindful, affectionate, and affirmative attention from teachers to thrive. And something I think that's also unique for toddlers and infants is that you got to work with their families much more closely than, say, a kindergarten teacher. Because as children grow, they're going on the bus, and you don't even meet them till parent-teacher conference, right? Then I'm not gonna read all of this. The next 2 pages I'm gonna have you read, and I'm probably gonna have you think about it. Let me just see what's on here. So working with infants and toddlers, however, is also immensely satisfying. Teachers tell us that, and there's a whole list of things, and I want you to read them. And if those things don't excite you, you still may need the infant. You know why? If you don't want to be an infant toddler teacher, why you still need to be here. And in fact, early childhood educators who want to be kindergarteners, kindergarten teachers are also expected usually to take this course. Is it provides some really important foundational information for the development of the 4 domains, right? The reading, it's social emotional. They've connected social emotional together, which I don't know why they weren't. And then we have the language development and reading, literacy, my favorite. And then we have cognitive, which obviously is connected to language development and literacy, but now we're separating it out because it is so critical. And then physical development. All those areas, right? We have to be able to help them in all the areas. So there is a great list of things here that talks about what teachers will tell us that they actually love about being with infant and toddlers. And then professionals engage in ethical practice. So what does that mean? What on earth could I possibly come across? And there's a little bit of a scenario, and I may assign that. So then at the end it says you and your well-being. What other profession includes love, care, and intimacy as part of its work? This field requires developing responsive relationships with young children and their families. Honestly, it also often, especially at that age, requires intimacy with co-teachers and knowing how to work with another professional, and even if you don't get along, doing what's ethically the right thing for the children and the families, right? You have to be able, if you're a professional, you have to be able to put those things aside and do what is best. So if you have a mission or a belief or a teaching philosophy, you have to apply that. Even if you don't like the person you're teaching with, you can take steps to maybe make a change and get a different co-teacher, maybe make a change. If you realize infant and toddlers isn't for you, you can try to advocate for yourself to get a different age group. But as a professional, we have when we go in a room, we've got to do what's the best thing to make children thrive. So, and that's true. If I go in as an observer of a student, I don't just sit there and do nothing. If I see something that it's appropriate for me to either be supportive or lend a hand, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to call people out on stuff in front of everybody. I'm just going to try to do what's appropriate. Sometimes it's appropriate for me to say nothing because we're guests, right? But I can have a conversation later, maybe. But we're going to talk about that too, because you are going to be doing placements. The ideal way of doing this class is to have a placement in an infant and toddler classroom, but I'm going to make a different video for that. That was just a quick run through of the last section of our Relationship Way book. And we'll be writing a reflection probably on that piece. I just wanted to get this recorded.